In the Absolute Universe, hope isn't the default. It's a rebellion. Kal-El remembers that better than anyone because he grew up on Krypton and watched it die. He was old enough to understand the warnings, to see the powerful ignore them, and to witness a world collapse because no one in charge was willing to act. That lesson followed him to Earth. When he arrived, he found brief shelter in Smallville, but the safety didn't last. The Lazarus Corporation, led by Ra's al Ghul, saw him as a weapon and a means to bring about Earth's destruction before its rebirth. Rather than let the fight destroy the people around him, Kal-El chose exile and spent years moving and helping where he could, never staying long enough to be captured. But eventually, the running stopped being enough. He returned, faced Ra's al Ghul and won. He refused the offer to become Kal al Ghul, rejected power built on fear and brought Lazarus to its knees, sending Ra's to prison. That could have been the end of it, but Superman wanted to do more than that. He wanted to help Ra's see the error of his ways, to make him reflect and make him change, and actually, he wasn't limiting himself just to Lazarus. Superman began holding the powerful accountable, and the elite took notice. So they sent their superpowered stooge Hawkman to try and talk some sense into him. Hawkman is a relic of another age, a man who believes that the world is only stable because people like him make compromises, stand with the powerful, and try to contain the chaos. That's his philosophy. Where Superman changes the system, Hawkman preserves it, and when Superman refused to listen, Hawkman turned to violence. But before that conflict could reach its breaking point, Lazarus made one final move. They released the Parasite, reimagined here as an alien entity that feeds on fear itself. Hawkman tried to stop it through force and was consumed, but Superman took a different path. He understood what it wanted and decided that the best way to save its victims was to give them something the Parasite found repulsive: hope. With the city safe, Superman didn't destroy the creature though. He took responsibility for it and promised to care for it. He contained it and set about finding a way to take it home, because that's who he is. But while the world was watching Metropolis, something else slipped through the cracks. The Parasite attack was a distraction, and by the time the dust settled, Talia al Ghul had already broken her father out of prison and aimed to undo everything Superman fought to change. This issue is the start of a brand new story, but the fallout from what came before continues to be felt. Now, the most noteworthy thing about this issue is that it introduces 3 absolute versions of characters. Teth Adam, more commonly known as Black Adam, but here they call him King Shazam. There's also the Phantom Stranger and Steel. Teth Adam is the narrator of much of this issue, as we're shown his origins in ancient Egypt. He is a young slave from the Blacklands who left his homeland to seek safety, but was enslaved. While he is just a boy, he has a very clear sense of right and wrong. When he sees the slave drivers attacking a sickly old man, he steps in, and for his trouble he receives a beating too, while the old man is murdered. A short time later, the slave camp is visited by a stranger who refers to herself as a phantom, hint hint, who talks about a coming savior and gets the slaves' hopes up. Based on how she describes him with a cape made of the dust of his homeland, it certainly sounds like she's talking about Superman. Now, I imagine some of you will have no idea who the Phantom Stranger is, so give me a moment and I'll give you a brief rundown. The Phantom Stranger is one of DC's supernatural heroes. His true identity has never been definitively confirmed, but there have been many potential origins for him over the years. Some say he's a cursed soul from biblical times, condemned to wander the earth after defying or betraying the divine. Others paint him as a fallen angel, neither loyal to heaven or hell, punished for his neutrality during a cosmic rebellion. In some stories, he's the son of Kingdom Come Superman and Wonder Woman, and in more recent years it's been suggested that he is Judas Iscariot. But what remains consistent isn't where he came from, but what he does. The Phantom Stranger appears at the edge of catastrophe, offering cryptic guidance, nudging events without ever fully intervening. Whatever the truth, he is less a hero, less a judge, and more a witness to humanity at its best and worst. And here, he is reimagined as a woman telling stories around the fire, giving hope to an enslaved people. But Adam has no interest in stories. He doesn't want to sit around and wait to be saved. He wants to find power and take it for himself. So he heads out into the desert to a place where it is said a wizard lives. His plan is to go to the wizard and demand the power to free his people. However, what he finds in that desert is surprising. Rather than a wise old wizard who bestows great power on an orphan boy, he finds a pair of brainiacs. These are not benevolent figures, if anything they're completely indifferent to Adam's plight, but they kind of admire his courage. So they opt to use him in one of their experiments. He wants power? Okay, they'll test out an odd device they found floating in a black hole, just to see what it can do. We don't see this in the issue, but what it did was turn him into King Shazam, a lightning-powered super monarch who ruled his land. It was his tomb that Carter Hall had been spelunking in when he became Hawkman. In the present day, King Shazam's sarcophagus is in the possession of Lazarus Corp, locked away in storage. But what I like about Teth Adam, whose name literally means mighty man, is that he's presented as a parallel to Superman. He even resembles him physically, and I think that where Hawkman was introduced to show Superman the dangers of standing by and cooperating with evil, King Shazam will show Superman the dangers of getting too involved in humanity's struggles and potentially becoming a despot. The other big debut here is Steel. If you follow my videos on my main channel, you'll know I recently released a video all about him, and how he was inspired by Superman to be better. Go check that out if you want to hear more. John Henry Irons was an engineer who created deadly weapons from Amertech, and was horrified to see them being used on civilians. He quit the corporate life and got a job in construction, and one day he saw a co-worker fall from a ledge. He swung into action, saving the man, but in the process lost his own footing and nearly died. Thankfully, Superman caught him. When he asked how he could repay him, Superman simply asked him to make his life count. And he did that by creating a suit of armor and went about righting the wrongs that his creations had done. Here, Steel seems to be a former Lazarus Corp employee, creator of the Peacemaker armor, and he seems to have been motivated into acting by Ra's al Ghul's escape from prison. I noted in the last video how Russ was reluctant to leave, but ended up going with Talia anyway. Well, it turns out he hadn't exactly reverted to his villainous ways. He spends much of his time trying to reason with Talia, telling her that he was wrong and that they must turn their back on evil. Talia wants her father to take a dunk in the Lazarus Pit, the last remaining one after she had the others destroyed before anyone could confiscate them and learn their secrets. If he just bathes in the Lazarus waters one more time, he'll be restored to his former glory. But Russ is defiant and refuses. He pulls the Lazarus Pit machinery apart, adamant that they must never be used by anyone again. And Talia cannot believe what she's seeing. She can't believe that this feeble weakling was once her mighty father. But before they can resolve their dispute, Lois Lane enters the scene, determined to kill Talia for murdering her father. But Superman arrives and attempts to de-escalate the situation. Yes, he could disarm them in the blink of an eye, but he'd rather reason with them and talk them both down. Sadly, neither of them are interested in hearing what he has to say, and Talia calls in backup, the Father Box. While this device had previously been used to heal Superman, it is a tool of Darkseid. It gets in Superman's head and debilitates him. Russ pleads with Talia to stop using the demonic weapon, just as Steel arrives and thwacks him with his hammer. Today is the day that Ra's al Ghul dies, he says. In the chaos, Superman punches the Father Box, sending it flying, as Russ warns that they need to get out of this facility because of who else is stored there. The energy from the Father Box is drained and revives King Shazam, who is not happy about being betrayed and buried for centuries. So yeah, quite a lot happens in this issue, and there are a lot of different threads that are starting to come together. There are also a lot of characters sharing the page time, and I didn't even get the chance to mention how Lois turned down the job at the Daily Planet, how Jimmy is feeling overwhelmed at the paper, and how the Parasite has essentially become the absolute version of Krypto. I feel like this story is going to help Superman decide what kind of hero he wants to be, and how he will bring about lasting change with his words, not his fists. But we'll see. Absolute Superman 18 is available now from all good comic shops. I would encourage you to research your local comic shop, and if you don't have one, I'm certain there are dozens of good stores nearby that would be happy to mail you your comics. If you're opposed to the idea of cluttering up your home with comic books, then you can get this one digitally from places like Amazon as well as Neon Ishiban. Personally, I prefer physical comics, but I do like the convenience of having thousands of comic books accessible from my phone. But you do what works best for you. For those that are interested in my physical collection, Mile High Comics had another 70% off sale last month. Oh no. So I ordered some vintage Batman comics for myself. They arrived this week, and I'm thinking about upgrading to a bigger storage unit. Next time. I'll be back soon with a video looking at Batman number 8, The Quiet Before the Storm, as Vandal Savage and Poison Ivy collude, while Batman meets with Alan Scott, the Golden Age Green Lantern. And next week I'll be back with 2 videos. Up first, Absolute Green Lantern 13, which will take us to the depths of space as the 2 anomalies, Joe and Ray, meet. Finally, I'll make a video about Bleeding Hearts number 3 from the writer of Absolute Martian Manhunter. In this issue, Poke returns to the Horde after coming down with a strange illness, compassion, and sadness. Hope to see you then.